We are just over a month away from NHL free agency getting underway, so I've put together the ultimate free agent guide to get you ready and prepped to know all the top free agents across the NHL that are available. We'll jump into that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're taking a look at all the upcoming pending free agents around the entire NHL. So I've gone through and organized these by position, and they're going to be organized in order of what their previous cap hits were here as well. So we're going to go through and look at all the top free agent goalies, defensemen, centers, left wingers, and right wingers across the NHL. There's a lot of names now. We're not going to spend a ton of time talking about each one because we'd be here for an eternity. But essentially, there's a lot of big and interesting names out there, and there's obviously some that are more likely than other to possibly change franchises and end up in an interesting different jersey come next season. But there's a lot of names out there, so I thought it would be best just to prep everybody here heading into the full swing of the offseason. We've only got 4 teams left in the NHL playoffs right now. Obviously, we're still in June, but free agency, the NHL draft and expansion draft are all getting near the end of July, so we're just getting really about a month away from a lot of exciting stuff here. So let's dive into the free agent class here. We're going to start with the goaltenders, work to our defenders, and then to our centers and our wingers. All right, so here's our first look at goaltenders. These are your top 10 based on their cap hit from their previous contracts. So we've got Tuukka Rask of the Boston Bruins. Of course, he's 34 years old and is going to be going under a big surgery, so it's certainly debatable what happens with him, but he's made it clear it's Boston or nobody. We've got Pekka Rinne of the Nashville Predators. Certainly some feel he may retire. Hard to say. You get Freddie Anderson of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Many feel his time in Toronto has come to an end, and Jack Campbell will remain the starter. So certainly will be interesting to see where the 31-year-old Frederik Andersen ends up next season. Of course, we've got Devan Dubnyk, longtime goalie of the Minnesota Wild, has bounced around a little bit since then between the Sharks and the Avalanche. He's 35 now. So I would still likely think he can probably get a contract as a backup somewhere, but certainly will be taking less money than his previous deal. You get Antti Ranta of the Arizona Coyotes. He's actually 32 now. It's hard to imagine, but he did get into the league at a little bit older age. He likely leaves Arizona, would be my guess. But he can still be an effective goaltender if he can stay healthy. Of course, you've got James Reimer of the Carolina Hurricanes. He certainly didn't get a ton of playing time down the stretch here and in the playoffs, but I think his time with the Hurricanes is pretty much up. You get Philip Grubauer, who was a standout with the Colorado Avalanche this year. Certainly going to be a huge part of that Avalanche future. I know they're really hoping to keep him in the fold, but after the awesome season he had and the Vezina-like season, he's likely going to be able to command a substantial raise. Also have Peter Mrazek of the Hurricanes, who's 29 now. He's still a really solid goalie. I'm not sure what the Canes do in this case. They might bring Mrazek back and go with a duo of Mrazek and Nedeljkovic. Hard to say, but certainly not a clear-cut answer where he ends up. You get Jonathan Bernier in Detroit. He may return there, but he may have more of an opportunity with another team who might be more ready to win. Then, of course, you got David Riddick of the Leafs as well, 28 years old, formerly of the Calgary Flames, was acquired at the deadline. Certainly not going to be returning to Toronto. That much is a given. Hard to say where he ends up, but he should be able to find work around the NHL in some capacity. Now we're looking at goaltenders rank from 11 down through 25. So we're going to go through these ones a little quicker, a little bit lower profile. You get Carter Hutton in Buffalo as well as Linus Ullmark. Hard to say who returns there. Jaro Halak in Boston. I get the feeling he's done there. You got Laurent Brossoit in Winnipeg, 28 years old. He could return. You got Mike Smith in Edmonton, who they likely do re-sign. He had a really solid year. It was a bargain contract this year. You get Brian Elliott in Philadelphia. I'm not sure if he continues there or they go in a new direction either. Curtis McElhinney, I'm going to say he probably doesn't go back to Tampa. Chris Driedger is going to be one of the most interesting names on the goalie market, given his resurgence here as a late bloomer with the Florida Panthers. But given the fact they have Spencer Knight as well as a $10 million man, Sergei Bobrovsky, it's highly doubtful Florida can find a way to keep him. Then, of course, you have Aaron Dell in New Jersey, who's a longtime goalie with the Sharks. He likely... I'm not sure what happens to Aaron Dell, really, to be honest. He didn't get a lot of playing time this year. Only appeared in 7 games. You had Calvin Pickard in Detroit, Jonas Johansson in Colorado, Craig Anderson in Washington, Scott Wedgwood of New Jersey, Michael Hauser in Buffalo, and Alex Lyon of the Flyers, all of these guys, it's really debatable. So they're certainly making less money, lower profile goaltenders. Now, next up, we're looking at our left shot defensemen here, guys that normally play the left side. You get Alex Edler in Vancouver. Certainly, I'm not sure if they bring him back or not. You get Mark Stahl, Detroit Red Wings, another debatable situation. Alex Goligoski in Arizona, as well as Nicholas Chalmerson. Ryan Murray in New Jersey. You have Brendan Smith with the Rangers. Ian Cole with Minnesota. Alec Martinez in Vegas. He's probably one of the higher, stronger players here in this top 12 we're looking at right now. But Martinez may, as much as he wants to, and Vegas may want to keep him, they may have a hard time financially. I'm not sure. Martinez may have to move on. You get Eric Gustafsson in Montreal. Patrick Nemeth in Colorado likely moves on. Jamie Alexiak, I know the Stars do want to keep him. He's come a long way. So we'll see if he stays with the Stars. And then, of course, you get Jordy Ben, who was picked up by the Winnipeg Jets at the NHL trade deadline. Rounds out your top 12 here of the left shot D. Now, looking at 13 through 27, we're going to go through these a little bit quicker. A lot of lower profile guys. You get Braden Coburn, Mike Riley in Boston. I think there's a good chance they try to keep him. Jordan Osterley in Arizona. You get Dmitry Kulikov in Edmonton, as well as Derek Forbort in Winnipeg. I think the Jets could try to retain Forbort, but we'll see. Ben Hutton in Toronto. Pretty well given he doesn't go back there. John Merrill in Montreal likely doesn't return either. Mikko Lehtinen in Columbus. That's a debatable situation after coming over from Europe. I'm not sure if he stays with the Jackets or moves on. Christian Rolanen, who's actually a Group 6 UFA, became a UFA a little younger than usual because he didn't get the games played to remain a restricted free agent. So he's with LA now after being traded from the Senators. So hard to say where Rolanen's future takes him. You have Slater Cuckoo in Edmonton, who missed a lot of time this year with a difficult injury, but I think Edmonton might have interest, but we'll see. Zdeno Chara, of course, a longtime vet in Washington. That'll be an interesting scenario. Will he continue to play? I mean, he's 44 years old now, but he did play a lot of minutes for the Caps. You get Matt Irwin, Samuel Morin in Philly. I think he moves on. You get Andy Green with the Islanders and Jared Tenorti of Boston as well. Now, jumping over to the right shot D, the big one, of course, is Dougie Hamilton, who's already been allowed by the Hurricanes to speak with other franchises. So he's going to be the big fish here on the market on the blue line, especially on the right side. So hard to say where he ends up. You get Jason Demers in Arizona, David Savard in Tampa. Both those guys, good chance they move on. Adam Larson has reportedly been doing a lot of negotiations and likely could stay with Edmonton, but they've yet to come to new terms. You get Eric Branson, who was traded from Ottawa to Nashville this year. Hard to say about him as well. Brandon Montour in Florida is an interesting one, as well as Tyson Barrie in Edmonton. A couple of offensive guys who could find themselves in new homes. In the case of Barrie, I think Edmonton would love to keep him, but it's going to be an awfully challenge financially, so I think we may see him move on. You get Sammy Vatanen in Dallas, Travis Hamonic in Vancouver, who's now apparently willing to move around if he needs to and play anywhere in the NHL. He had previously said he only wanted to play in Western Canada, but that's no longer the case. And then lastly here we have Cody Ceci of Pittsburgh, age 27, who finally had a better year and a better fit in Pittsburgh, so we'll see if he decides to remain there or if he tests free agency a little bit further. Now jumping to the next group here in the right shot defenseman, we have Kevin Miller of Boston. Of course, he's had his fair share of injuries. Hard to say what happens with Miller. Zach Bogosian with Toronto. Wouldn't be surprised if he stayed on another short-term deal. You have Stephen Kampfer in Boston. Luke Schenn in Tampa. Tucker Poolman of the Winnipeg Jets. Mark Pysyk of the Dallas Stars. Yanni Hakanpää of Carolina. He actually turned out to be a really good pickup for them. Wouldn't be surprised if they try to retain him. You have Matt Tennyson with the Devils. Jalen Chetfield with the Vancouver Canucks, and Michael Stone in Calgary. I wouldn't be shocked if the last couple here in Chatfield and Stone both return to the respective teams there on short-term, fairly inexpensive contracts. Before we continue on into the rest of the free agents, we do need to pause for a second and acknowledge one of our channel sponsors, Exter. Hockey's proud to be sponsored by Exter. Forbes calls Exter the most successful smart wallet brand in the world. They certainly have high-quality products, high-grade leather. You can put all your cards in your wallet with RFID protection, and you can track it worldwide. That's the best part. You don't have to worry about losing your wallet and not being able to track it down. They have a great selection of products to choose from here, a variety of colors and styles, something to surely help for everyone. As you can see in the demonstration here for the product I have, this is a beautiful packaging, high quality. When you open it up, you get a high quality wallet with lots of slots for your cards. you have yourself a money clip if you want to carry cash on you here as well. And certainly, as you can see, the quality is outstanding. And here you can see the switch where you can help open up your cards. You just one little click and boom, everything fans out right in front of you. Easy to access. Your cards are protected. And here's the back where you have yet another slot. A terrific overall product, and I can't recommend these enough. Extra ships worldwide, and you can check out the link down below in the description as well as the pinned comment to buy yours today. Now jumping into the center iceman, and it leads the way here by Ryan Getzlaf. And keep in mind we're going by cap hit here from the previous contract. So of all the centers, he had the highest one. So 36-year-old Getzlaf could very well return to the Ducks organization. It's certainly up for debate. We'll probably know sooner than later, though. I would say he likely finishes his career there. Same with David Krejci in Boston. I think there's a good chance he returns. But I know there's mutual interest, and he, like his teammate Tuukka Rask, made it known that he doesn't see himself playing anywhere else. So it's either he signs with Boston or maybe he doesn't play or goes to Europe. You get Derek Stepan in Ottawa. That didn't really work out the best. He won't be returning there. So he'll be available for sure. Paul Stastny in Winnipeg. I think there's a pretty good chance he moves on through free agency. They're going to have to go with Scheifele and Dubois, their top two centers. You get Adam Lowry in the number 3 spot. Doesn't really make sense, in my opinion, to keep Stastny around. Of course, you get Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in Edmonton. He's going to be a very interesting one to watch. 28 years old. I believe there's interest to keep him in Edmonton as long as he's playing, but, money talks, so we'll see. You get Travis Zajac of the Islanders. That's just a rental situation. He'll be on the move. You get Tyler Bozak in St. Louis. I believe he'll be on the move as well. Same with Artem Anisimov. Hard to say about Marcus Johansson and Nick Bukestad in Minnesota. They very well could return, but I wouldn't be shocking if they were on the move either. Now in this next block, we've got Nick Menino of Minnesota. Yet a lot of players here that play center for Minnesota are free agents right now, so it'll be interesting to see what Bill Guerin does. You have Darren Helm in Detroit. I don't see there being a ton of interest there. You have Mikael Granlund, who's also a winger or a center. He'll definitely be, getting a contract somewhere, whether it's Nashville or somewhere else. There's a lot of talk of Casey Zizekas maybe moving on from the Islanders. Hard to imagine him playing anywhere else, but we'll see. Eric Stahl's been a good fit in Montreal with Corey Perry throughout these playoffs, so wouldn't completely rule out a reunion again next year, but we'll see about that. Same goes for Philip Deneau, the 28-year-old center, who was, in top, I think he was 5 or 6 for Selke voting. I don't know what happens with him. He certainly has had a lot of negotiations in the past year and has yet to come to terms, so if he's willing to take a lower price tag, I think he can stay with the Habs. You had Valtteri Filppula in Detroit, Riley Nash in Toronto. Both those guys likely move on. Alex Wenberg probably returns to Florida. That was a really good pickup. Of course, he was familiar with GM Bill Zito from their time in Columbus, so no shock that he ended up there, and it was a good fit. And you've also got Jordan Martin in Carolina. Obviously, he's a good locker room and glue guy for them, so hard to imagine him going somewhere else as well. This last block here has a lot of guys in. We're going to run through these a little faster. A lot of the lower profile bottom 6 players like Pierre Bellemare. He's I can see him returning to Colorado, but they're going to be under a cap crunch, so they maybe not. You have Luke Glendening in Detroit, Eric Howlett in Nashville, Cedric Paquette in Carolina. You have Sean Corrali, Thomas Nosek, Mikhail Grigorenko, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Grigorenko may already have a contract in Russia. So we'll have to check that out, but I think he does. Carter Rowney in Anaheim. You have Brad Richardson in Nashville, Tyler Ennis in Edmonton, Sam Gagner in Detroit, Nate Thompson of Winnipeg, Justin Dowling of Detroit, Jumbo Joe Thornton. Hard to say what happens to him if he continues to play or not. Travis Boyd, who was a decent fit in Vancouver. I could see maybe a reunion there. And then, of course, you get Freddie Gaudreau as well with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now on to the left wingers, of course, led by the great 8, Alex Ovechkin. I have no doubt he'll get a deal done with Washington, but it's certainly going to be interesting to watch that situation and process play out. It's believed he might be one of the league's highest paid players. He might be looking for a contract comparable to Connor McDavid, so we will see. Taylor Hall, I think there's a good chance he stays in Boston. Gabriel Landeskog, I think there's a really good chance he stays in Colorado as well. So top 3 guys in the left wing for cap hits that are free agents now likely don't change teams, in my opinion. Nick Foligno is a pretty good chance he goes back to Columbus, but time will tell if that's really the case or not. You get Jaden Schwartz in St. Louis. That's another tough one. The Blues might be working on some other moves, and we'll have to see what else they do here. I think there's interest, but I don't know if they can keep him or not. Tomas Tatar in Montreal. I think he likely moves on. He hasn't been playing much as of late in the playoffs, and I think he's kind of lost his spot there. You get Matthew Perreault in Winnipeg. That might be challenging for them to afford. Hard to say about him. You got Ryan Dzingel in Ottawa, another guy that could find himself on the go again. Andrew Cogliano in Dallas. Zach Hyman, he's going to be one of the most interesting ones to watch here. He's a guy who can truly cash in and make the most of this, and be interesting to see if he stays with Toronto or not. And of course, you got Matthias Janmark in Vegas, as well as Brock McGinn of the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, this next block also has some interesting names as well, including Blake Coleman of Tampa. He very well may have to move on. You got Michael Raffle in Washington. You got Marcus Sorensen in San Jose. Galchenyuk in Toronto. There apparently is interest to bring him back there. Derek Brassard with the Coyotes. I think Brassard probably finds another new home. You get Barclay Goodrow in Tampa. Again, probably a cap casualty. Jimmy Vesey in Vancouver. Things didn't really work out for Jimmy Vesey in Vancouver or Toronto this year, so hard to say what the future holds for him. Michael Bunting in Arizona. They would be smart to keep him, in my opinion. He had a really fantastic end of his year. He ended up with 10 goals in 21 games. Played for Canada at the World Championships. Looks like a real bit of a late blooming, solid, really fast guy here with a lot of goal scoring abilities. So to me, he should stay, but we'll see what the Coyotes do. You get Drake Caggiula, the all-time games played leader, Patrick Marleau, of course, likely signs another short-term deal with San Jose if he continues playing. You get Philip DiGiuseppe in the Rangers organization, and Riley Sheehan. A lot of these guys very well could find themselves on the moves given the depth role they all play with their organizations. Now, lastly, here we're looking at the right winger. So the top block here has Avalanche forward Brandon Saad, who had a really solid year, good showing in the playoffs as well. So we'll see what happens with Saad. He probably is going to be moving on because of cap reasons. I think the Avs would be interested, but hard to afford. Kyle Palmieri of the Islanders, he's likely just a rental and moves on. You get Brandon Sutter, the Vancouver Canucks. Now, he's also a center iceman here, but they have him listed as right wing as his primary position, which I'm not really sure why that is. You also got Mike Hoffman in St. Louis. There was a lot of talk of the Blues trading Hoffman at the deadline, so I'm not sure that it's likely that he returns there. You get Derek Ryan in Calgary. Yoel Armia in Montreal. He's had a really good playoffs. It'll be interesting to see what happens to him. You get Alex Chiasson in Edmonton. The Wayne Simmons in Toronto. Colton Seaver in Pittsburgh, as well as Nikita Gusev of the Florida Panthers. Then our last block of right wingers include Bobby Ryan of Detroit. He had a good year, but again battled injuries. I know he had expressed interest in staying in Detroit, so we'll see if that's mutual and he can work something out. You have Vinny Hinostroza of the Chicago Blackhawks. He's made his return to Chicago. I don't know if he'll get a new deal or not there. You have Josh Levo in Calgary. I'm going to assume he likely moves on. Corey Perry, Montreal, has been working out marvelously. Solid regular season, solid playoff. I think the Habs do what they can to keep him. You get Trevor Lewis in Winnipeg. Lewis probably moves on, or I'm not sure if he's going to continue playing or not. It's hard to say once these guys get to the mid-30s, they're harder to predict. You get Toby Reeder in Buffalo as well, Evan Rodriguez in Pittsburgh, and Brett Ritchie of the Calgary Flames. I think there's a decent chance the Flames will try to bring Ritchie back here. So that is my 2021 NHL Ultimate Guide to Free Agency. Of course, as I want to know your thoughts of where some of these players are going to end up, who do you feel are the most likely top names that we can see swap teams and end up with a different jersey next season? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news on all 32 NHL teams as we approach this offseason. It's going to be a very busy time, so definitely want to stick around for all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.